I played a crazy game with 3 brilliant moves and 80-something% accuracy in my first classical over-the-board game ever. And being someone that picked up chess after watching the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, I am so proud to present you pretty much my best game of chess I've ever played. This is my best work so far. Hope you enjoy. For most of my chess career, I played one e4, but more recently, I've been trying to switch to one d4. And after knight f6, I played the Trompowsky. I've been learning these lines recently. If you've seen any of my recent videos, I did a lesson with Brentino, and then also I have a game where I sacrifice my queen in a Trompowsky line. But here, we get into some mainline stuff, and then c5. But f3 is definitely the move after d5. But c5, I wasn't 100% sure what the lines were. I'm still studying them, but I play f3 anyway, and then my opponent gives me a queen check, which I didn't understand because I just block it with the pawn, and I feel like this queen's a little bit misplaced, and you can see that now I basically have a London structure even with the bishop outside the pawn chain, and I'm pretty happy. Like, my opponent isn't really like doing that much in the center, and they just have one piece developed, so I thought I had a slight lead in development, and here I'm just getting a comfortable position, hitting the queen, and they don't even try to protect this pawn. I thought queen b6 was coming. I can't really take because I just lose the pawn immediately. But then I can try and like hunt down the queen to some degree. But I took the free pawn. My opponent told me afterwards that he didn't think it was going to be worth that much to have that pawn, and it actually helps him in the future. But we'll get to that. Here, my opponent plays e6, very natural, connecting the pawns and also hitting my knight. I did not want to allow my opponent to take because I figured that pawn would be really hard to hold on to. So I moved back and moved my queen. I'm eyeing the long castles plan, and I do. But maybe I rushed this a little bit because now it's a bit clear that my opponent should be starting a minority pawn storm at some point while I'm just going to be launching all my kingside pawns and pieces. So maybe I rushed it, but I came to fight, so we're fighting. We're playing aggressive attacking chess. After knight e5, I probably shouldn't have played this. The computer just thinks I should just go ahead and start the storm on the king side. But my thought process was I wanted to clear a space for my light square bishop to develop. And if the knight takes, I was exploring both options, but I ultimately figured it's fine. I will have both my bishops staring into the king side, and this is going to be good for setting up long-term attacks. And this knight doesn't have that many squares to go to. It literally can go backwards or to the edge. Not either of them are going to be good squares. After my opponent plays g6, I get really excited because now I'm thinking, wow, I can really leverage that in my kingside attack and try and break up this pawn structure this way. So I play g4. My opponent plays a4. I try to stop the pawn in its tracks, but b5 gets played and b4 is coming. So here I was really worried by the fact that my king and queen were on the same file, because very quickly there's tactics. I was just worried, let's just say h4, b5, and if I were to take, then the bishop could get sacrificed and the rook comes through, and this is where I was getting concerned because thinking, look, this is a pin, I don't like losing my queen. Sure, like computer just says this is fine. Oh, not that. Computer just says rook takes and your pawn structure is good, and material's even because you got a pawn, a bishop, and a rook for a queen, 9 for 9. But I was worried there's this passer, all these open files of the rook and the queen can come over. I didn't like this, so I just went for the grandmaster move, king b1. Just getting out of all those tactics. Nice prophylactic move. The queen moves to join the attack, and then I lash out with h4. The rook comes to join the attack, and here I was debating, do I have time? Do I get to play h5? Do I get to play g5? Do I need to do something else? Do I need to play knight e2 to guard this? Maybe if I play h5, I obviously if he takes here, I'm ecstatic because now all of a sudden the king's open. But I realized he didn't have to, and this really worried me that he could play g5 here, because now it's a little bit locked. Pushing the pawn doesn't do anything, and this looks like it's coming very quickly, and all of a sudden like g5 just slows down my attack. Again, computer poops all over it. It just says takes, and queen d2 and push f4 and you'll be fine. I didn't believe in that. So the other option was g5 to kick the knight. And although my bishop becomes a monster bishop, again, I didn't see a path like forward here. But computer says queen d2 and yeah, just move everything over. Didn't see that. So I played knight e2, which is fine. Just solidifying the c pawn and going from there. But b4 does come. And I think it's not an issue. I just keep pushing forward. And after b takes a3, h takes g6, and f takes g, I sacrifice my bishop. I spent so much time, maybe like 20-30 minutes, calculating if this would work. And my one fear was queen takes, queen, and pawn takes. So I can't take because then I get blown off the board with both bishops and rooks staring at me. So and 2 connected passed pawns coming down. And the best thing I came up with here was maybe I take the knight and then take the pawn, all of a sudden I have at least a passer, or I can just move my bishop back and just try and defend. I figured worst case I would play on from there, and it'd be equal material, but still very, very double-edged. But my opponent doesn't take with the queen on b2. He plays a2 check. And now I'm thinking, great, I think this is all going to come together. Because I can play king a1, and I use both a pawns as umbrellas to guard me from any further weather, and we should be safe. Like, there's really going to be hard to attack. My bishop is still hanging, which is why b3 looks so silly to be a brilliant move, but my bishop's still hanging. And again, like if you take this, is just a quick mate and 2, so you definitely don't want to do that. But they bring their bishop. They are saying, look, we are going all in, like just all in pressure. But I am quicker because I play bishop takes h7, and I was worried about all sorts of different king moves, but I figured this is horrible with a discovery. This is terrible because queen g6, and same thing here. I didn't quite find the most concrete line after king f8, but I didn't have to deal with it. And you'll see it's a very similar idea anyway. After queen f6, king goes back to the f8 square. And here I did see it, bishop g8. Brilliant move because I'm threatening checkmate, but it's also hanging. So once you take that, maiden 1, and that is game over. Mad respect to my opponent who allowed me to actually deliver this checkmate over the board. I really appreciate that. I feel like that's a sign of respect, and it was really cool to end a game like this with an actual checkmate. Was a lot of fun. With that, I hope you enjoyed this recap. Let me know if you've been playing over the board, what your experience is, what your rating is, what your chess story is, and happy learning, everyone.